The Galactic Council Hall shimmered under the light of 1,000 stars, the ceiling made of glass that revealed the vastness of space beyond. Banners of every alien empire floated around the grand chamber, their colors bright and proud. But beneath that beauty, tension simmered. President Aiden Holt of Earth stood at the center, his voice steady and calm. "We can end the wars," he said, his tone carrying the weight of hope. "If we remember that every world, every race, shares the same fear, the fear of losing everything." The hall grew quiet. Even the harshest alien delegates leaned forward, listening. Holt had that effect on people, even those who despised him. His words were sharp, simple, and real. From the balcony above, an alien officer whispered to another, "He's dangerous," his forked tongue flicking in irritation. "Humans make the others believe in them." His partner nodded. "The Vrath Dominion will not allow him to unite the Council." In the shadows, a cloaked figure moved silently, holding a small pulse rifle invisible to scanners, watching the human leader through a scope. President Holt continued, unaware of the danger above. "Peace is not a dream," he said. "It's a choice. And I believe even those who fear us can make it." His words echoed through the hall. Cameras broadcasted his speech across the galaxy. Millions watched, millions believed. But some feared belief more than war. Suddenly, a flash of blue light cut through the air. The sound was sharp, like thunder trapped in metal. Holt stopped mid-sentence, confusion on his face. Then he fell. Silence filled the chamber. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then screams erupted. "The president's been hit." A voice shouted. Chaos swallowed the hall. Security drones flew in, scanning for the shooter. But the killer was already gone, a shadow lost in the corridors of the Council. Admiral Rhea Torres, head of Earth's defense fleet, pushed through the crowd. Her face pale but her voice firm. "Seal the exits," she shouted. "No one leaves until we find who did this." But the Council guards hesitated. Their orders came from alien leaders who did not want confrontation. "This is not your jurisdiction," a tall alien with green scales hissed. "The Council will investigate." Torres turned sharply, her eyes burning. "The Council," she said. "You let this happen under your own roof, on Earth." The news hit like a storm. Every screen, every radio repeated the same words. Earth's leader assassinated at Galactic Council. People stood in silence in streets, classrooms, and factories. Disbelief turning to grief, and grief turning to rage. In the Terran Command Center, General Marcus Hale slammed his fist against the table. "Find them," he said through clenched teeth. "Find out who killed him." Meanwhile, inside the council chamber, the alien delegates argued. "We must not rush to conclusions," said the Chancellor of the Council, his voice trembling. "We cannot risk galactic war." A cold laugh came from an alien diplomat seated nearby. "Perhaps Earth should learn humility. They think too highly of themselves." Torres heard it. Her fists tightened. "Say that again," she whispered, her voice calm but dangerous. "And I'll remind you why humanity survived every extinction it faced." The alien looked away, his arrogance fading under her stare. Hours later, as the body of President Holt was placed inside a silver cryo case, a strange quiet filled the chamber. Torres stood beside it, whispering, "You died for peace, sir." Her voice cracked. "But I promise you they'll pay for this." At the same moment, in a dark room deep below the council, 3 alien figures met in secret. "It's done," one said. "The human leader is dead." Another, with red markings across his face, leaned forward. "Are you sure no one can trace it?" The third one smiled thinly. "The weapon was unmarked, and the mercenary will never speak again." They exchanged glances, unaware that a small recording drone, damaged but still active, floated above them, silently watching. The next morning, Admiral Torres met with General Hale via hologram. "The Council wants to handle the investigation," she said. Bitterness in her tone, Hale frowned. "Handle? You mean bury it?" he replied. "We'll never see justice from them." Torres nodded. "Then we'll find it ourselves." Hale leaned closer, his voice dropping. "You know what that means?" Torres met his eyes. "Yes," she said quietly. "It means war." In the days that followed, protests broke out across human colonies. Millions demanded answers. But no one from the Galactic Council spoke. Reporters who asked questions were silenced. Evidence was erased, and whispers of conspiracy spread like fire. A few aliens who tried to help humanity vanished overnight. Then, one night, a faint signal reached Earth's deep space communication base, an encrypted message. The transmission was weak, half-corrupted, but inside it was a recording, a meeting, voices. The same ones that planned the assassination. Hale played it over and over, until he recognized one of the voices. It belonged to a high-ranking council member. "They killed him," Hale whispered, "and they thought we'd do nothing." When Torres received the file, she stood on the bridge of her flagship, staring at Earth through the viewport. "He believed in peace," she said to her second-in-command. "But peace died with him." Her officer hesitated. "Admiral, if we strike back the entire galaxy—" Torres cut her off. "The galaxy already made its choice," she said coldly. "Now it's our turn." The fleet began to prepare, engines lighting the dark sky over the moon bases. The sound of war returning after years of silence across every Deathworlder station. Soldiers whispered the same name, Halt, a symbol now, not of peace, but of vengeance. As the first ships rose into the void, Earth's skies burned with light. The stars seemed to tremble as humanity awakened, not as diplomats, not as negotiators, but as the children of a death world, forged by pain, united by fury, and ready to burn the galaxy for justice. And somewhere deep in the Council's shadow, the killers watched the broadcast, their laughter fading when they saw the Terran flag projected across the stars with 3 words underneath. Glowing bright and cold, we remember everything. The night sky above Earth was no longer calm. The stars that once symbolized peace now looked like silent witnesses to the storm building below. Deep within the Terran command, alarms blinked red across the control panels. Lines of data flashed faster than anyone could read. Admiral Ria Torres stood in the center of the room, her hands clasped tightly behind her back, her eyes fixed on the main screen showing the last broadcast of President Aiden Holt. The image froze at the moment before the shot struck him. "Play it again," she said quietly. Her voice low but firm. An officer hesitated. "Admiral, you've watched it 50 times. Torres turned slowly. "And I'll watch it 50 more until I find what everyone else missed." The video rolled again. The chamber filled with the same echoes of Holt's last words. The pulse shot, the panic, the chaos. Torres's sharp eyes scanned every corner of the image. Suddenly she pointed. "There," she said. "That shimmer behind the upper balcony." The technician zoomed in. A faint blur, almost invisible to the naked eye. "That's no light reflection," she said. "That's cloaking tech, military grade." Silence filled the room. "Admiral," one officer whispered, "the tech belongs to the Vrath Dominion." Torres's eyes narrowed. "Exactly." She turned to her communication officer. "Send a message to all Deathworld fleets, code red. We're activating Operation Requiem." The officer froze. "Ma'am, that operation hasn't been used in decades." Torres nodded. "Then it's time to bring it back." Across Mars, Lunar Base, and the colonies near Jupiter, old hangars that hadn't opened in years roared to life. Massive doors slid open, revealing ships built during Earth's darkest wars, sleek and black, scarred but deadly. Humans called them the Ghost Fleet, because no one who ever fought against them lived to tell the tale. In one of the underground bases, Commander Elias Ward trained a group of new pilots. He looked up as the sirens blared. "Operation Requiem," he whispered. His heart pounding, the recruits looked confused. "Sir, what does that mean?" Ward smiled grimly. "It means we're going to remind the galaxy why they fear us." Meanwhile, back on Earth, General Marcus Hale met Torres through a secure hololink. "You're moving too fast," Hale said, his face hard. "We don't even have full proof yet." Torres leaned forward. "We have enough, Marcus. They use Vrath cloaking tech, and the Council's silence says everything." Hale clenched his jaw. "If you go through with this, you'll start a war the Council can't control." Torres gave a cold smile. "That's the idea." In the shadows of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Serac of the Vrath Dominion received an encrypted message. "The humans are mobilizing." his aide said nervously. "They're coming for us," Serac hissed. "Let them come. Their anger will be their downfall." But behind his arrogance there was fear, because even he knew what Deathworlders were capable of when they were pushed too far. Hours later, Torres stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Resolute. As engines thundered below, her officers moved quickly, their faces lit by blue light. "Fleet status?" she asked. "All wings ready," replied her first officer. "We're awaiting final command." Torres took a deep breath, her eyes on the stars. "Then let's begin," she whispered. "Set course for the Vrath border." The ships rose silently, dark shadows cutting through the clouds, leaving trails of fire behind them. Every colony watched as the sky lit up. Some cheered, some wept, but all understood. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice. As the fleet entered deep space, Torres stood with Ward beside her. "Do you ever think he'd want this?" Ward asked quietly. "President Holt, I mean." Torres didn't answer immediately. Then she said softly, "He believed in peace. But peace died with him. Now we carry what's left of his dream, the part that fights back." Meanwhile, in the hidden sectors of the galaxy, spies sent their reports. "The Deathworlders are coming," one alien whispered over comms. "And they're not negotiating." Fleets began to scatter. Planets locked down. Even the most powerful empires began to prepare. Because when humans move as one, no one feels safe. The Vrath Dominion gathered their fleet near their capital moon, thousands of ships forming a massive defense grid. Serac stood before his generals, his voice full of false confidence. "They will come in anger, but we have numbers. We have technology," one general interrupted. "But they have something else. Vengeance," Serac glared. "Then we'll bury them before it reaches us." The first contact came without warning. A small human scout ship appeared out of warp near the border. Vrath patrols moved to intercept, but before they could fire, the human ship transmitted one message across every channel. "For President Holt." Then the screen went dark a second later. Dozens of stealth missiles ripped through the patrols. Explosions lighting the void inside the Resolute. Torres watched the battle unfold. "First strike successful," her officer reported. "Enemy patrols destroyed," Torres nodded. "Good. Make them feel it, but not too fast. I want them to remember every second on the Council homeworld." Chaos began to spread. Reports from the front lines poured in. "The humans have breached the border," shouted one aide. "They're using weapons we've never seen before." The Council Chancellor's face turned pale. "Contact Earth immediately," he ordered. But no reply came, only silence. Back on the Resolute, Ward walked up to Torres. "The Council's sending peace requests," he said. "They want to talk." Torres looked at him, her voice calm. "They had their chance to talk when Holt was alive." Ward hesitated. "And now?" She looked out at the stars. "Now they listen." The fleet pushed deeper into enemy space. Planets burned. Defense stations fell one by one. No one could stop them. Even the alien networks began broadcasting the same message. "The Deathworlders have awakened." In the middle of the battle, something unexpected happened. A distress signal came from a Vrath refugee ship. Civilians, children, no weapons. "Admiral," her officer said, "orders!" Torres stared at the screen, her jaw tight. After a long pause, she said, "Let them go." Ward looked surprised. "Ma'am?" Torres turned. "We are not monsters. They killed one man. Not every innocent life." Her words carried across the bridge. The crew straightened, proud. The fleet changed course, bypassing the refugees. As the last Vrath war station fell, the message spread through the stars. Humanity had done the impossible. They had brought the strongest empire in the galaxy to its knees in less than a week. On the final transmission, Torres stood before the camera, her voice steady. "To the Council," she said. "You wanted to test our limits. Now you've seen them." She paused, then added quietly, "Peace will return, but on our terms." When the screen faded to black, silence filled the galaxy. But it was not the silence of fear. It was the silence before change. Earth had spoken in the only language the galaxy understood, and every world listened because they knew the truth now. The Deathworlders weren't coming for war, they were coming for justice. and justice always burns bright before peace returns. The Galactic Council chamber had never felt so quiet. The shining walls that once echoed with proud speeches now carried only whispers and fear. Alien delegates sat in silence as the news of the Vrath Dominion's defeat spread across the stars. Screens flickered with images of burning cities, broken fleets, and human warships hovering like silent predators above conquered worlds. No one dared to speak first, until the Chancellor finally rose, his silver robes trembling. "We must restore order," he said softly, "before the Deathworlders turn their eyes on us." Across the galaxy, Admiral Ria Torres stood aboard her flagship, the Resolute, watching the stars through the large view window. Her fleet had completed the mission. Holt's killers were destroyed, their empire broken, but peace still didn't feel real. Commander Elias Ward approached her, his expression uneasy. "Ma'am," he said, "the Council just declared an emergency session. They want to talk about the future of the galaxy." Torres didn't turn around. "The same council that ignored Holt's death," she said coldly. "Now they want to talk?" Ward sighed. "Yes, and they claim they want peace." She finally turned, her eyes sharp. "Peace is easy when you're afraid." In the council hall, ambassadors argued. "We cannot allow the humans to control the galaxy," shouted a reptilian leader. "They've already destroyed the Dominion. What's next?" Another, a smaller creature with glowing eyes, replied, "If we resist them, we'll share the same fate." Voices rose, anger mixing with fear. Then the doors opened, and silence fell. Admiral Torres entered, dressed in black, with the insignia of Earth shining on her shoulder. Every alien turned toward her, their fear visible. She walked straight to the center and said calmly, "You wanted peace? I came to hear it." The Chancellor cleared his throat. "Admiral Torres, humanity's actions have caused instability. The Council wishes to—" Torres interrupted. "You mean our response to murder?" Her tone sharp as a blade. "You let our leader die and did nothing." The Chancellor flinched. "The investigation—" "There was no investigation," Torres snapped. "You protected the killers, and now you speak of peace." The chamber grew tense, but then an unexpected sound broke the silence. A faint mechanical hum. The lights flickered. One of the alien ambassadors looked around nervously. "What is that noise?" he whispered suddenly. The Council's main holographic display flickered to life, showing a hidden transmission. Grainy and distorted, on the screen a secret meeting appeared. The same alien leaders, now sitting in the room, were shown planning Holt's assassination. Their voices clear, their faces visible. The room erupted in gasps. "This is fake!" One shouted, "A human lie!" Torres folded her arms. "The file came from your own security servers. Do you want me to show the signatures?" The Chancellor turned pale, his mouth opening and closing without words. Chaos broke out. Guards rushed in. Some aliens tried to flee. Others shouted at each other. One screamed, "We were following orders!" Torres raised her hand, and her soldiers stepped forward, weapons lowered but ready. "You wanted the truth," she said. "Now the galaxy has seen it." The council chamber shook with the weight of revelation. The very heart of the galaxy had been caught in its own web of corruption. Meanwhile, outside the chamber, news networks across hundreds of worlds broadcasted the footage. Billions watched in shock as the truth spread. The galaxy that once laughed at humans now saw them as victims of betrayal and survivors of injustice. Protests began on alien worlds, calling for justice, for reform, and for the end of the Council's rule. Inside the chamber, one of the accused ambassadors, a tall, red-skinned alien with golden eyes, stepped forward. "You think you can control the galaxy through fear," he hissed at Torres. "But you will only create more enemies." Torres walked up to him, her gaze steady. "Then let them come," she said quietly. "We've faced worse than fear." The alien tried to strike her, but before his hand reached her, a single stun pulse dropped him to the floor. Ward entered the room, whispering urgently, "Admiral, there's something else. You need to see this." She followed him out into the corridor. He handed her a datapad, showing a new signal intercepted near the Council's communication hub. It's from the core Dominion, Ward said. They're mobilizing fleets. They want to avenge the Wrath. Torres clenched her jaw. Of course they do, she muttered. One empire falls, another rises. Like vultures circling the ashes, Ward asked. Should we strike first? She shook her head slowly. Not yet. Let them make the first move. And when they do, we end it fast. Back inside the council, panic spread among the remaining members. Some called for human leadership, others wanted to disband entirely. The Chancellor approached Torres again, desperate. Admiral, the galaxy needs stability, he said, and Earth's fleet, your fleet, is the only force capable of maintaining it. She studied him for a moment. You want us to protect the same system that tried to destroy us? The Chancellor lowered his eyes. We need order. Torres looked around the shattered hall, the broken pride in their faces, and said, Then order begins with truth. Hours later, she stood on the balcony overlooking the council planet. Reporters and soldiers crowded below. She addressed them through every broadcast channel. For too long this galaxy has been ruled by lies, she said, her voice steady and strong. We came seeking peace, and were answered with betrayal. But we are not here for revenge anymore. We are here to rebuild what others broke. The crowd listened in silence. Even the alien delegates stood still. From this day, she continued, the Council will no longer rule through fear. It will serve through truth, and if anyone stands against it, they will face not Earth's wrath, but the justice of every free world. Ward watched from behind her, a small smile on his face. You sound like him, he said softly. Torres glanced back. Like who? Holt, Ward replied. He would have been proud. She gave a faint smile. Maybe, she said. But we still have work to do. As night fell across the council city, ships flew in the sky carrying aid, supplies, and human engineers helping rebuild what war had broken in the distance. A faint glow appeared, hundreds of worlds sending signals of alliance to Earth. One by one, they joined under a new banner, the Galactic Accord. Torres watched the lights flicker across the map. The galaxy's changing, Ward said. Do you think it'll last? She took a deep breath. Nothing lasts forever, she said. But at least this time, we're the ones writing the story. In the silence that followed, the stars seemed closer than ever, no longer cold, no longer distant, but bright with the promise of something new. A future built not on fear, but on the courage of a death world that refused to bow, and the memory of a leader whose death had lit the spark that changed the galaxy forever. The silence of the void stretched endlessly as the Terran fleet drifted above the council world. Lights from hundreds of ships blinked like cold stars. Admiral Ria Torres stood at the command deck of the Resolute, her reflection faintly visible in the glass, her eyes hard but thoughtful. It's quiet, Commander Ward said softly beside her. Too quiet, Torres didn't answer right away. She stared at the communication screen, showing hundreds of pending transmissions from other worlds. Some asking for peace, some for protection, and others for revenge, finally, she said. Quiet doesn't mean safe, Commander. Sometimes it means someone's waiting. Reports had begun to pour in from deep space. Colonies near the rim reporting disappearances. Entire convoys gone without a trace, and strange signals appearing and vanishing across the dark. Pirates. Ward asked, scanning the reports. No, Torres replied. Pirates don't make entire planets go silent. She turned toward her intelligence officer. What do we know? The officer hesitated. The last message came from a mining outpost in the core belt. They said something was moving inside the nebula, something massive. At the same moment, across the stars, on a cold world covered in ash, the Core Dominion's War Council gathered. Their new leader, Archon Vare, stood before a massive hologram of the galaxy, his red eyes glowing. The humans destroyed the Wrath, he said slowly. They humiliated the Council, and now they build their own order. We will not let Deathworlders rule us. One of his generals stepped forward nervously. But Archon, their fleets. I don't fear their fleets, Vare interrupted, slamming his clawed hand onto the table, because by the time they find us, it will be too late back on the Resolute. Torres studied the nebula scan, her instincts uneasy. "Send a recon team," she ordered. "Use cloaked drones. I want to know what's hiding there." Ward nodded and gave the command. Minutes passed in silence until the first feed came in. The image shaky, but clear enough to show a terrifying sight. Within the clouds of dust and light, an armada was forming, thousands of warships bearing the insignia of the core dominion. "By every god," one officer whispered, "that's not a fleet. That's an invasion." Torres's jaw tightened. "They're going to strike before the new accord takes hold," she muttered. "They want to crush us before peace becomes permanent." Ward turned to her. "What's the plan?" She didn't hesitate. "We hit them first. Hours later." The Terran fleet gathered near the edge of the nebula, engines humming, ships aligned in perfect formation. Torres stood on the bridge, watching as the countdown began. "Fleet ready, Admiral," Ward said. "All systems green." She nodded slowly. "Then let's show them what fear really looks like." As the first ships entered the nebula, the view outside vanished into swirling clouds. Sensors flickered, static filled the speakers. "We've lost visual," one officer said. "Weapons on standby," Torres ordered. Her voice calm but sharp. Then, out of the mist, hundreds of red signatures appeared. "Contacts," shouted another officer. "They've seen us!" Beams of plasma and missiles lit the void. The battle began. The first exchange was brutal. Explosions tore through the dark clouds. Debris scattered like fireflies in the storm. "Shields at 60%. Ward called out. "2 destroyers down." Torres gritted her teeth. "Focus fire on their command ships." The Terran warships responded with deadly precision, coordinated volleys cutting through enemy lines. But the core had planned for this. They unleashed massive pulse disruptors, disabling several human ships at once. "They're using energy drains." The engineer shouted. "Our systems are collapsing." Torres slammed her fist on the console. "Reroute power from non-essential decks. Keep the weapons alive." Suddenly, a huge explosion rocked the ship. Torres stumbled, sparks flying from the ceiling. "Status!" she barked. "We've lost the port shield." Came the reply, "Enemy battleship on intercept course." Torres looked at the screen and saw a giant core warship approaching fast. Its hull glowing red, she leaned toward Ward. "Ready the rail cannon," Ward blinked. "That weapon hasn't been tested." "Then this is the test," she said coldly. The bridge went dark for a moment as power rerouted. The cannon charged with a deep metallic hum. "Target locked," the weapons officer said. "Fire," Torres commanded. The blast tore through space. A glowing spear of kinetic energy, ripping the core flagship in half. The explosion illuminated the entire nebula. "Direct hit!" Ward shouted, but before anyone could celebrate, another alert blared. "Multiple warp signatures. New contacts inbound." Torres's heart sank. "Reinforcements," she whispered. The second wave was even larger. The humans fought with everything they had, ships burning, crews shouting orders through the chaos, but the core were relentless. It seemed endless, until a sudden message came through the static. "This is Admiral Voss of the Andorian Alliance, responding to the Accord's distress call. Reinforcements inbound." Torres froze, shocked. "The Andorians?" she muttered. "They're actually helping." Moments later, bright blue ships appeared from hyperspace. Sleek and fast, flanking the human fleet, their plasma cannons cutting into the core armada. The tide turned instantly. Ward laughed in disbelief. "They came," he said. "They really came." Torres smiled faintly. "Then let's finish this together." The final stage of the battle was chaos and beauty. Human and alien ships fighting side by side for the first time in history as the last of the core fleet broke apart. Archon Ver's ship tried to flee. "They're escaping!" Ward shouted. Torres's voice turned cold. "No one escapes justice," she said. "Lock on and fire." The Resolute unleashed a volley that pierced the fleeing ship. It exploded silently, a sun dying in the dark. Hours later, as the nebula cleared, the surviving fleets hovered among the debris, quiet and exhausted. Torres stood before the viewport, her voice soft. "We stopped them," Ward nodded. "For now," he said. "But there will always be someone waiting in the dark." Torres sighed. "Then we'll keep the light burning." The next day, A message was sent across the galaxy, a declaration signed by both humans and aliens, uniting them under the Galactic Accord. It said no empire stands alone, and no world will fall in silence again. As the message spread, billions watched the footage of the battle. The image of the Deathworlders standing with former enemies became a symbol of hope. Even the stars seemed brighter, and in that moment, Admiral Ria Torres finally allowed herself to smile, not for victory, but for what it meant. The galaxy had finally learned. Fear could break worlds, but unity could save them. And for the first time in history, humanity was not just feared. It was followed, the war was over, but the scars it left behind ran deep. Space was quiet again. Too quiet. Admiral Ria Torres stood at the center of the new Galactic Council chamber, a place rebuilt from the ruins of the old one. The walls were clean and bright. Banners of different species now hung beside Earth's flag. Yet beneath the peace, she could feel something was wrong. "It feels fake," Commander Ward said softly. Standing beside her, all these smiling faces, all this talk of unity. "But I can smell fear." Torres didn't respond immediately. Her eyes scanned the room. Dozens of alien leaders shook hands, exchanged promises, and smiled for the cameras. But their eyes told a different story. The Council had crowned Earth as the new guardian of peace. The Deathworlders, once feared and insulted, were now protectors of the stars. But peace built on fear was fragile, and Torres knew it. "Keep your guard up," she murmured. "The galaxy doesn't forgive that easily." Later that night, Torres sat in her private quarters aboard the Resolute. Her thoughts heavy, she replayed Holt's final speech on her screen, his voice echoing softly, "Peace must be built." "Not forced," she whispered the words, almost as if answering him. "I'm trying, sir." "But they only understand power," her door chimed. "Enter," she said, and Ward stepped in, holding a data pad, his face pale. "We have a problem," he said. "2 colonies near the edge of the Accord vanished," she frowned. "Vanished?" "No signals, no distress calls, nothing," he replied. "And there's more. One of our scout ships picked up strange energy readings near the sector. It matches nothing in our database." Torres stood up. "Show me." The screen flickered to life, showing a faint purple glow surrounding empty space. "It's not natural," Ward said. "And it's spreading." Torres studied it carefully. "Get a science team ready. I want a full analysis," she said. "And tell the Council to stay out of this for now." Ward hesitated. "You don't trust them." Torres gave a cold smile. "Trust is earned, not gifted." Within hours, the Resolute jumped to the edge of the unknown zone. The view outside was breathtaking. A swirling storm of light and shadow. "Beautiful but wrong. Sensors can't read through it," the officer reported. "It's like it's alive." Torres narrowed her eyes. "Alive!" she repeated before anyone could answer. A loud tremor shook the ship. Alarms blared. Something just moved. The helmsman shouted, "Right through the distortion field." On the main screen, a massive shape emerged from the glow, dark and ancient, its hull unlike anything they had seen. Ward's eyes widened. "That's not a ship," he whispered. "That's something else." The structure loomed like a sleeping god. Pieces of broken metal and rock floated around it. Forming a silent graveyard, Torres gave the order. "Send a probe!" The small drone flew toward the object. Transmitting live data, the signal flickered, then cleared, showing strange carvings on the surface. "Those markings," one scientist said, "they're older than any known civilization." The probe moved closer and suddenly vanished. "Signal lost." The technician cried, "It just disappeared." Torres clenched her jaw. "Bring the fleet to alert level 2. No one moves without my command." Minutes later, a deep vibration echoed through the ship. Like a heartbeat in the void, lights flickered. Communications scrambled. "Admiral!" Ward shouted. "It's emitting something, energy, radiation. We can't identify it." Torres steadied herself. "Pull us back now!" But before the fleet could retreat, the object released a massive pulse of energy. Bright as a sunburst, everything went white. When the light faded, half the systems were down, and 3 escort ships were gone. Only static remained. "We're blind," the engineer shouted. "Our scanners are fried." Torres gritted her teeth. They didn't vanish, they were taken. Back on the council world, panic spread as the news arrived. The alien leaders demanded answers. You see, one shouted, the humans bring war again. Another hissed, their arrogance has awakened something ancient. Torres arrived through a live transmission, her voice cutting through the noise. Enough, she said. We don't know what it is, but it's not ours. It's not anyone's. And if you want to survive, you'll help us stop it. But not everyone believed her. In the shadows of the chamber, Ambassador Drek, a surviving Vrath official, smirked. Perhaps the Deathworlders have finally met something stronger than themselves. His words spread like poison. On the Resolute, engineers worked around the clock to restore systems. Torres paced the deck, her mind racing. That energy pulse, it wasn't an attack, she murmured. It was a signal. Ward turned to her, confused. A signal to who? She looked out at the stars. That's what we need to find out. Hours later, the mystery deepened. The missing ships suddenly reappeared on the sensors, but something was wrong. Their power signatures were unstable. They're moving toward us, the officer said. But their engines are dead. Torres stared at the screen. Open a channel. Static filled the room. Then a voice crackled through, distorted and broken. We see you. The bridge fell silent. Who is this? Torres demanded. No answer came. Only the same whisper repeated again. We see you. Suddenly the ships exploded. A chain reaction lighting the void. The shock waves slammed into the Resolute, knocking everyone off balance. When the chaos settled, Ward stood up slowly, blood on his forehead. Admiral, what just happened? Torres didn't answer, her eyes fixed on the remaining energy readings. Deep within the storm, something had awakened. The ancient object now pulsed like a heartbeat. Stronger than before. It's feeding, she whispered. Every ship it touches, it absorbs. She turned sharply to her officers. Send this message to every Accord world. Prepare for planetary defense. The galaxy just woke something older than all of us. Ward looked at her. Fear in his eyes. You think we can stop it? Torres's expression hardened. We'll have to, or there won't be anything left to protect. Back on the Council world. Chaos erupted again. Worlds demanded to withdraw from the Accord. Blaming Earth for bringing this curse, Ambassador Drek fanned the flames. They called themselves protectors, he sneered. But they brought doom. But in a twist no one expected. A transmission cut across every broadcast. The face of an old scientist appeared, one who had been missing for years. You don't understand, he said, his voice shaking. It's not a weapon, it's a warning. Torres stared at the message, her heart pounding. A warning, she whispered. From who? The scientist looked directly into the camera. From the ones who built the stars. Silence fell across every world, every ship, every mind. The galaxy that had just begun to heal now realized something far greater was coming. And this time, even the Deathworlders might not be ready for it. Darkness stretched across the void where the stars should have been. The strange energy field that had swallowed half the fleet now pulsed like a living wound in space. Admiral Rhea Torres stood on the command bridge of the Resolute, her eyes fixed on the glowing storm ahead. The crew worked in silence, their faces pale. No one dared to speak too loud. Report, she said finally, her voice low but steady. The energy readings are climbing again, said the science officer. It's almost like it's learning from us. Commander Ward looked up sharply. Learning. The officer nodded. Yes, Admiral, every time we scan it, it changes pattern. Like it's answering us? Torres crossed her arms, her jaw tight. Then stop talking to it before it decides to talk back. Outside, the storm twisted like a heartbeat, its color shifting from purple to deep red, and within it, shapes began to move. Massive silhouettes that shimmered between light and shadow. What are those? Ward whispered. Ships? No, Torres said softly. Something older back on the Galactic Council world. Chaos had returned. The delegates shouted over each other. Panic spreading faster than truth. We must evacuate the colonies. An alien cried, no, we must destroy the anomaly before it spreads. Another countered, and how will you do that? demanded Ambassador Drek, his voice dripping with mockery. "Your weapons can't even scratch it." The Chancellor tried to restore order, but no one listened. Finally, a hologram appeared in the center of the hall. Torres, her uniform torn from battle, her face calm but cold. "Enough," she said, and everyone froze. "You sit here arguing while the galaxy dies around you," the Chancellor started. "Admiral Torres, we save your speeches," she cut in. "This isn't a war we can win by debate. It's something else, something ancient. And it's waking up." Her words sent ripples of fear across the chamber. Drek sneered. "And whose fault is that? You humans dug too deep, played with things you didn't understand." Torres stared at him through the hologram, her voice quiet but sharp. "You think we started this?" "No, Ambassador. We just happened to survive long enough to see what you buried." The transmission ended. Leaving the chamber silent, meanwhile, on the Resolute, Torres ordered the ship closer to the anomaly. Against every warning, "Admiral, that's suicide," Ward said. "Every ship that's entered hasn't come back." She met his eyes. "Then we'll be the first." The ship entered the storm, the hull creaking under pressure. Alarms screamed as lights flickered. "Radiation levels rising," the engineer shouted. "We can't stay long." "Keep us steady," Torres commanded, "and record everything." As the ship moved deeper, the view outside changed. The chaos faded, replaced by calm darkness filled with floating ruins, massive structures of metal and stone, glowing faintly with golden light. "Are those ships?" Ward asked, staring in awe. "Not ships," Torres whispered. "Cities. They drifted through what looked like the remains of an entire civilization. Structures older than any known race. Carvings marked the walls of the ruins. The same symbols the probe had recorded earlier. "I think this is where it began," said the science officer, his voice trembling. "The ones who built the stars." Before Torres could respond, the main console beeped. "Something's activating," the officer said. "A transmission. It's not directed at us. It's broadcasting across the galaxy." "Put it on screen," Torres ordered. The image flickered, revealing a figure made of pure light. Tall, humanoid, but not human. Its voice echoed through every frequency. "We are the architects," it said. "We built the stars, and we buried our greatest mistake here." The crew stared in silence. "What mistake?" Torres asked quietly. The being turned toward her as if it could see her through the screen. "Life," it said. "You were not meant to find us." The transmission ended. The ship shook violently. "Power surge!" Ward shouted. "It's reacting to us." The storm came alive, lightning tearing through space. "Evasive maneuvers." Torres ordered. The ship spun as debris crashed around them. "We're being pulled in," the helmsman yelled. Torres grabbed the console. "All power to engines." But it wasn't enough. The Resolute was dragged deeper into the storm. Then suddenly, everything went black. When the lights came back, they were no longer in normal space. Outside the window was an ocean of stars, but not their stars. "Where are we?" Ward asked. "Coordinates don't match anything in our system," the officer replied. Torres looked out, realizing the truth. "We've crossed into another part of the galaxy. Or maybe another time," a voice echoed faintly through the speakers. "The same as before, but softer now. You were warned," it said. "But you are different from those who came before. Your kind fights for life, even when all hope is gone." Torres frowned. "You're watching us?" "We are what remains," the voice answered. "And you may be what comes next." Before anyone could speak, a bright pulse surrounded the Resolute. Systems flickered, and then silence. They were back. The anomaly gone. The storm vanished like a dream. "We're back in known space," Ward exclaimed. "The coordinates match the Council sector." Cheers erupted, but Torres remained still, staring at the empty space where the storm had been. "What just happened?" she whispered. "Did we destroy it?" The science officer shook his head slowly. "No, Admiral. I think it let us go. Back on the Council world, the return of the Resolute caused uproar. Reporters surrounded the landing bay. Shouting questions, Torres stepped out. Silent and composed, the Chancellor rushed to greet her. "Admiral, what did you find?" She paused, then said quietly, "The truth." He frowned. "Which is?" She met his eyes. "We are not the first. But maybe we're the last." That night she stood alone on the balcony of the council tower, the stars above shining brighter than ever. Ward joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "So," he said, "did we just meet gods?" She gave a small smile. "No," she replied, "just old builders who made the same mistake we almost did." He nodded slowly. "And what was that?" She looked at the horizon. They forgot what life meant. For a long moment they stood in silence, watching the stars. Finally Torres spoke again. "We've seen what waits in the dark. Now it's our job to make sure no one wakes it again." Ward smiled faintly. "So what now, Admiral?" She turned toward him, her eyes steady. "Now," she said, "we rebuild for real this time, far away, beyond the edge of every map, deep in forgotten space." Something stirred inside a broken world. Faint lights blinked, like eyes opening after a long sleep, and a whisper filled the void, soft but clear. "We see you." Then the lights faded once more, leaving only silence, a warning, and the endless stars that humans now called home.